Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay.
Titania.
All right.
It's Titania Jordan.
Welcome everybody. Today I am here with Elizabeth Holmes, fellow female BA in tech. So excited to have you here.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So Elizabeth, tell everybody your title at Elavon.
I am the Senior Vice President of IT Strategy and Global Business Services.
Wow. Okay, say that one more time because that's a lot to process.
Yeah. IT Strategy. So I work closely with my team and our CIO, Tom Phillips, to develop a long-term strategy that is supportive of our corporate objectives and our business strategies, be it regionally in North America and Europe, or for operations, product, and in any other business line. And then that's kind of the fun part. And then actually it's all really fun, but that's the really exciting part because I get to work a lot with our business line customers. And then the other part of my job, which is much larger, it's probably about close to 200 people, if not a little more, is what I call global business services, and it is global business requirements, global software testing, and then I have a little smattering of some other things. I have a SharePoint development site or a development team, and they develop the company intranet so that we use that as our portal for communicating with employees.
Wow.
So, kind of a lot.
Wow, let's just take a minute to soak all of that in. That is, for anybody who kind of gets what that means, like totally geeking out right now.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. And so, how did you get to be where you are today? What was your career path like?
I started out at Georgia Tech and studied engineering. Yeah, go Jackets. And so I majored in civil engineering, which is construction. So I'm very comfortable being in a room full of 98% men, because that's where I got my start in school. But I love to build things, and so it was just a really natural fit. And as I sort of did engineering and then moved into environmental engineering, which was really scary and stressful, but really important work. I got to a point to where you move up to a certain point and then you start managing and not doing the work, and I really like doing the work. So IT was kind of just getting started at my company, and so I crossed over to the light side, and and that's and I've been there ever since. It's like once you move into IT, it sort of grabs a hold of you, and it's really hard to leave. And also because it just changes all the time. So like the minute I kind of start to get a little bored because things are running so smoothly and we've got everything going on, then something new will come up and it's like, oh good, we get to go reinvent something else. So
there's always problems to solve, or always things to growth hack, or always new ways to take advantage of what exists out there. So it's, I agree, once you go IT, you don't go back. Ever.
That is true.
Now, let's focus on the importance of marketing IT. That's a huge buzzword term right now. Everybody's figuring out how to optimize, and data analytics with regards to marketing is just invaluable right now. So talk about that.
Well, I have one of the other groups that I have in my organization is our business relationship management team. And they serve kind of two really critical functions. One is they're liaisons from our business partners into IT to help them navigate and escalate things if things aren't getting actioned quickly enough. But the other really important thing that they're doing for us is they are our PR department. So they coordinate our newsletters, they interview people in IT to be able to tell the story of all the great work that they're doing. And the other kind of critical thing that I'm really proud of is the metrics and the scorecards that we've developed over the last 5 years since I've been at Elavon. And that really intends to tell the whole story of how we do software development. A lot of times when you deploy something to production and something goes wrong, everybody's saying, oh, QA missed it and what went wrong, and they focus on the last part of software development. And the scorecards that we've developed really tell the whole journey from the business idea all the way through production. And so having those metrics and being able to show trends over literally the last 4 years since we've started it, show how our quality's improved release over release, how our throughput has been really stable, how our development organization has improved, and I think that is also a really great way to market kind of what the IT organization does for the business.
That's huge.
Yeah.
You know, as a marketing professional who has, for her whole career, basically been so involved in the creative aspect of
Right.
it, making that shift to database decisions was uncomfortable at first,
Yeah.
but extremely valuable.
Yeah.
And, you know, it used to be very separate, the marketing and the IT departments, but now you have to
Work together.
have to.
Absolutely.
It's critical.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's talk about supporting the innovation journey.
Yeah.
You have a wealth of knowledge behind that.
Yeah. This is another, again, when things run, when you do a good job building an organization, you cross-train everyone, you get good procedures in place, it gives you what I refer to as space. Space to think, to innovate, to creatively solve problems. And so I've been very fortunate. I've got a great team of people that work with me. And so we have just this year started to really look at ways to shift, or not shift so much, but maybe enhance the culture in our IT organization by promoting creative problem solving, looking for ways to partner with the business, to recognize the needs they have. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're launching an innovation lab, which a lot of companies have done. It's new for us, so it's called the Greenhouse.
The Greenhouse.
And yeah, so we worked with a marketing company, a creative marketing company, to come up with that, and it's really about growing ideas. And that's one of the ways that we want to drive that innovative culture, problem solving, partnering with the business, and we are trying to continue to move up that ladder where you become the trusted advisor of your business partners. And so demonstrating the ability to invest in emerging technologies and recognize customer needs and come up with creative ways to address those, as well as working with the internal business partners to solve problems for them, is just a fantastic way for IT to really showcase what they're great at. So that's what I've been championing with my team, and we're really excited about where it's going, and we're hoping that the rest of the IT organization gets as excited as we are. We've done the first few projects, and we're working on our first robotics project.
Ooh, wow.
To do end-to-end automation using a robotic arm on the front end for the credit card transaction. And we'll see where it goes from there. But we're expecting a lot of good ideas to come from the IT organization. And
that's so exciting. And when you foster innovation and creativity within an organization, what comes out of it is beyond what you could have imagined.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's fun. It's fun to breathe that life into your company.
It is. Somebody, I can't take credit for this, but they use the term that IT organizations become expert order takers. In a very regulated and regimented organizations, and I work for a very large, very successful bank, and Elavon is a very successful company as well. But like a lot of financial services, we're subject to a lot of regulatory scrutiny. And so we have to be very, very buttoned up in everything that we do. And sometimes that feels like it stifles creativity a little bit. So this is a way for us to remind each other that we are incredibly creative and good at solving problems, and sort of to give us that permission to kind of do a little extra and to take those steps to kind of step in and fill the void when you need to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You have the luxury of being in the world of tech for a certain amount of years,
Yep.
to where you have worked with both boomers and now
Oh, yeah.
millennials.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that blended workforce dynamic.
Oh yeah. Well, it's I mean, every time I turn around, I'm getting an email from someone saying there's a presentation or a conference or a roundtable discussion about millennials and how do you get them and how do you keep them. And you know, we look around at our workforce and we go, we have baby boomers, Gen X, we have it all. And I'm actually just as concerned about our baby boomers as I am about our millennials.
Good.
And they're very different. And if I was on a panel the other day and I suggested to the audience, I said, if you don't know what your distribution is of your generations, I said, you need to find out. One, the way you communicate and lead may vary a little bit, and so you need to understand who your audience is, particularly in IT. But more importantly, we found out when we did that, we asked HR for that analysis, that like 15% of our workforce is going to retire or is eligible to retire in the next 5 years.
Wow.
Which is, you know, probably very, very similar for a lot of financial services companies. And you know, COBOL and assembler programmers aren't, you know, they're not falling out of the trees. So we really need to do some work to protect those folks, to figure out how we're going to get new resources in to work with them for a pretty extended period of time, because they have sometimes 20 and 30 years of knowledge in their heads.
That wisdom.
Oh, it's daunting, but you know, those are things that we've got to put on our resource strategy roadmap to determine how best to handle that. But we've you know, we want to keep everybody, you know, happy and inspired and focused on doing really great work, you know, that's important to the business, and we need every generation to participate in that.
Yeah,
so.
One of my favorite quotes, it's so cheesy, I'm about to get real cheesy with y'all right now, but teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got to find a way to get the PC Outlook loving people to work with the MacBook Air Slack loving people. You know, like we can coexist.
Absolutely.
And make great things happen.
Yeah.
You mentioned something in our conversation offline. Play outside of your sandbox.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Well, that kind of goes into that creative problem solving, filling the gap, and you know, sometimes we might get a little bit criticized for kind of coloring outside the lines. It's like, well, that's not part of QA or BA.
Yeah.
You know, get back in your sandbox. But I think it's when you see a need and you step outside of kind of your day job, I think it makes you a better technologist.
Yes.
And it also builds bridges with others in your organization. So you say, hey, I heard that this customer is having this challenge, and if you let me borrow this individual who has tremendous expertise in the data, and this person on this other team that knows how to visualize data, and we grab an intern that's, you know, home for the summer, which this is a real story, we just did this, and you put those three people together. Nobody asked us to do this, but I heard of a need, and I said, I know people. I've been with the company for 5 years, I've built a lot of relationships, and so we pulled three very different people together, and we developed something that we think is really going to make a difference. So that's what sort of getting comfortable, kind of stepping outside of your own sandbox kind of refers to, is don't be afraid to offer to help. And don't be, and it's almost ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yes.
It's a little bit of that too. And I tend to be a little bit of a pot stirrer, so you know, if it gets too easy and calm, then we kind of stir the pot a little bit and make a little trouble.
Yeah,
so.
The status quo is boring.
Yeah, a little bit.
Life's too short to kind of just float along.
Yeah.
You and I are both very familiar, you more so, with being the only woman in the room.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the upside of that.
Oh yeah, it's you know, and I sometimes I get that question, or I talk to young girls that are either in college or they're part of, we're affiliated with Year Up, and so we hire interns or folks from there to work with us, and a lot of the questions I get, particularly from the younger folks, is, you know, wow, has it been hard? You're in IT and you were in engineering and you went to Georgia Tech, and I'm like, yeah, all that's true, and
check.
Very, very, you know, heavily male dominated. I think it's changing. I know Georgia Tech is now 50-50, which is fantastic. But but it's not all bad. It's not all bad, and it never has been. I've never really seen it as a disadvantage. I like being the only woman in the room sometimes. It's unique. It's a unique position, and I tell people that you almost get a little bit more deference to contributing or offering an opinion because you are the only one. Right. But what you say has to really matter. It has to be intelligent and well thought out, and so you kind of got one shot to prove it. First impressions are everything, and I think as long as you know your subject, and if you don't know anything, keep quiet and just listen and learn. But I think sometimes it's a lot of times it's an advantage, and I like being a girl. So. And I really liked being at Georgia Tech, and I loved engineering. I love the STEM field, and IT has been terrific for me.
That's wonderful.
So
I'd
highly recommend it to all the young ladies and young men who are looking at a career in STEM. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of the work I have tried to do with young women, encouraging them in middle school and high school to go into
and
computer
stay
science.
the course.
And stay the course.
Stay the course.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunities that have come because of me pursuing a career in technology blow my mind, and I wish I would have known about it earlier.
I agree, totally.
You don't necessarily have to be super strong in math or science. Yes, it helps, but as somebody who, again, I'm more of an artist, I'm more creative, but when you can combine that creativity and thinking outside the box with the technical skills and processes and systems that are in place to help people be more efficient, like the world becomes your oyster.
Absolutely. It's really about critical thinking, critical problem solving skills, and really being able to take a problem and kind of break it down. Software development is just like construction. You have a blueprint, you build it, you quality check it, you have inspectors come in, and then you sell it. And as long as you're building something that the market wants, it'll work.
And even things like A/B testing, it's so much fun.
It
two
is.
things and you can see which one works better.
Absolutely.
Who wouldn't like that?
Yeah, it is. It's terrific.
So what is some of either, and you can give both answers, but some of the best career advice you've received, and then alternatively, some of the worst that you're like, don't do that?
I think way early in my career, I had a great leader that said that in IT, you really need to understand the financials. And that has boded very well for me. I understand OpEx, capitalization rules, and I think that understanding kind of the budget and forecasting and has really helped to creatively finance some of the things that I'm passionate about. So as an example, we depreciate assets, physical assets. So when we had an opportunity to develop really extensive automated testing capabilities, my team came up with an idea to build a website where you could launch all the automated scripts from it. It's called Autodash. And that physical asset allowed us to have an entity that you can depreciate. So we were able to capitalize that work. So I've kind of gotten a reputation for kind of figuring out how to creatively finance and fund things without necessarily having to ask for additional headcount or additional budget. And I think that's really, really important. Also, when you capitalize labor to work on a project that's eligible, you now made room in your OpEx budget that you can potentially hire people to fill so that you can get more work done for the same money. Now you still have to pay the piper once that asset goes live, but I think really having a good understanding of the financials just gives you a little bit more creativity around how you can get new things done.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, that was fantastic advice. And I try to teach Finance 101 to my team.
Yes.
And I want them to be in charge of their own budget so that they really understand how it works.
That's
particularly
awesome.
Forecasting, because the finance organizations get real sensitive about that. So if we can help them, then now we've just made another friend.
Yeah.
So
friends are good.
Absolutely.
Especially in finance.
There's classic advice. You've probably heard maybe your mom say it's better to be the best dressed person at the party. than the worst.
Right.
And I think I've heard it, it's kind of a trite thing for women, dress for your next position, or, it's the look in the mirror and just, and say, am I 20th floor ready?
Right.
If I got a call from the president, would I feel comfortable walking into their office? And, do you want to, and first impressions are lasting impressions. So I think not necessarily that you have to be in a suit or a dress every day, but just, look sharp, best foot forward. I think that's always good advice for everyone.
Yeah, always be polished.
Yeah, always, yeah. And I don't, I don't think that I can't think of any really bad advice I've ever been given. There's, people have tried to steer me in certain directions that I haven't always agreed with, like stay in your sandbox. And also, I adore this individual, but I have a coworker that made a comment one time that I wasn't very technical. And I think that, it stung a little bit, but then I thought, to be a good IT leader, you don't have to be able to write code. And you don't necessarily have to be able to architect a solution. You have to know how to listen to your business partners. You need to know how to build really strong teams, and you need to know how to staff your weaknesses. So I surround myself with really technical people that can write code and do amazing things. So I don't necessarily have to be able to do that. I just have to be able to create a vision and a strategy and a roadmap that we can follow, and also be okay with changing directions if something happens. A lot of people get really committed to, this is where we're going and that's it. And I reserve the right to change my mind every day.
Love it.
Particularly if I make a decision after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Because usually, I tell my team all the time, don't ask me anything hard after 4 because all the decisions have already been made for the day and the bank is empty.
Yeah.
So
decision
catch
fatigue.
me early. Oh, absolutely. That is a real thing.
It is real.
It is a real thing, for sure.
We have only begun to scratch the surface of your wealth of expertise and knowledge. Do you tweet? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Do you blog? Like, how can people follow along and tap into these truth bombs that you're dropping today?
I've posted a couple of little articles on LinkedIn, and I've actually got another one teed up, ready to go.
Yes.
So it's something new. Again, when your job is pretty organized and things run pretty smoothly, then you have that space.
Right.
And so I actually was. I was in Manila last week visiting my team.
Wow.
And, sat down at the end of the day and just had the muse visited me. So the creative juices were flowing, and so I wrote a pretty long, article. And I've got another one sort of queued up on innovation and our journey that I think might be somewhat inspiring for those that are trying to figure out how to get on that path and make it real. So that's typically what I've done. I have a Twitter account, and I occasionally will go to a conference and I will get on board with
hashtags,
hashtag tweeting and things like that. But I'm nowhere on the caliber of of our president or anything like that. But
we'll pop a link up in our description when you're watching this on YouTube. If you look right below the video, there's hyperlinks you can click on, and so we will link to Elizabeth on LinkedIn so you can follow her thought leadership journey, because you are just such an inspiring colleague and female in technology, and I'm just so honored to have you here today. For everybody out there who's watching right now, we reach everybody from people who are currently enrolled at Georgia Tech, right?
Yep.
Looking to take their first career step,
right,
all the way to CEOs and CIOs and CTOs. So a lot of people out there in YouTube land and in the internet in general who could rally together and help you with anything you might need help with today, or anything that you're like, hey, go support this. So I'd love if you would use this opportunity right now to kind of tell everybody, hey, this is important to me, and go support it. Do you have anything like that you?
Well, my company partners with a number of organizations. Year Up, I mentioned already. I love that program. It takes young people in the Atlanta area, and it runs them through dressing for success and presentation skills, and then they teach how to work in a corporate environment, and then they teach real skills, whether it's help desk or business requirements. And we've embraced that program a lot. So for companies, if you don't have an internship pipeline already established with the university, that we've gotten fantastic talent from that organization. And so that's one that is very near and dear to my heart. So I think that's a great one to look into. And of course, I think anything that we can do to share what we know, particularly what we've done wrong,
yes,
is really helpful. Atlanta is a very small community, even given that there's 7 million people in the city or more, and they call it the Silicon Valley of the East or South, and I actually think the polls might reverse and California might become the Atlanta of the West, so if they're not careful. But there's just a lot of talent. Building a network is really critical. So I think anything you can get involved in, whether it's Women in Technology or TAG or any of the fintech organizations, as young or as old as you are in your career, I think those organizations are terrific, and they again help build that community, and they encourage people to share information, and it's just a lot of fun.
It absolutely is. So
it's who you know,
right?
For sure.
Yeah. So we will pop up a link to Year Up below this video as well. I can't wait to look into it.
It's great.
And yeah, get involved. Atlanta is the biggest small town that I've ever been a part of. It's pretty fantastic.
And everybody knows everybody.
Yes, they do.
So it's a lot of fun. I like seeing this. I like seeing new faces, but a lot of the same faces too. So.
Yeah. It's great. Elizabeth, it has been an honor to have you here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.